Welcome to the Au Jus. I'm your host, Beef Loaf. This show is being sponsored by our friends, Punky's Pizza and Pasta, located at 2600 South Wallace, my personal favorite eatery in the neighborhood. They have the best selection of pizzas and pastas, as well as sandwiches and salads of any spot in Bridgeport. Currently, they have a terrific Monday nights only special. One medium cheese pizza for $12.99. No promo codes, no minimums. Just place the order after 3 p.m. You can get one medium cheese pizza for $12.99. Toppings can be added, but at their normal prices. And make sure to get that. It's Monday Night Football tonight. You got to stock up. Hit the website, punkyspizza.com, for all your carryout or delivery needs or to cater your next party. You can also call 312-842-2100. The Scarlotta family will take care of you. Punky's Pizza and Pasta. This show is also powered by you, the Loyal 108 supporter. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel. Feel free to tickle the undercarriage in the process. Like, comment, turn on notifications, and most definitely super chat, because that's how we get paid. It's how we continue to make the content you know and love. Tonight's guest. He's a longtime member of White Sox Twitter, participant in the 108 tourney, someone that may or may not be part of a very infamous Twitter DM that probably doesn't exist, and finally, a low-key baseball coach of note that keeps under wraps more than Kaiser Soze, recovering Prof. Welcome to the Au Jus.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate you having me on.
I've been wanting to do this. I'm glad you agreed to doing this because I heard from someone. You got a lot of, we DM a lot about stuff, but I heard you got a lot of baseball pedigree, but you're pretty quiet about it on the main. And so, I think it's emphasized in my pick of you here is that your dog is giving you the side eye too, just like, well, hey, what's going on here? What are you up to? So, like, I appreciate you making the time for me tonight, and that you get the Miller High Life. That's my favorite as well. Miller High Life. Kelly Kapowski on the shirt. What could be better? Let's do it. So let's jump right in. I think one of the things that you and I have been bantering about in the DMs lately that is maybe against course of the mainstream White Sox fan base is Chris Getz's trade deadline and how he actually did. A lot of people like, oh, it was panned by the industry. The fans were upset. Starting with the Eric Fedde trade. Prof, why do you disagree with the common sentiment out there that he didn't have a decent trade deadline?
I know that this might be shocking, but I think that Sox fans are overrating the package that was sent. I know that Fedde's numbers looked really good, but like if you look under the hood, he's definitely he was overperforming, and you can even look to the 6 or 7 starts that he's had with St. Louis, where he's given up a lot of homers. He's given up a lot of walks. His walk rate was actually pretty good with the White Sox, but it's ballooned since he's joined. There's a lot of blue on there, and I know people are going to be like, oh, yeah. It's real baseball, not fake baseball, but things are going to correct themselves eventually, and they kind of have. Even when he was with the White Sox and he has this 3.39 ERA, he had the 13th lowest strikeouts among qualified pitchers with only 138. He's given up 20 homers so far, which is the 10th highest in baseball. And
so not Lance Lynn homer problem, but still not good necessarily.
not good. And if you're going to give up that many homers, you better strike people out. And he's not striking people out. His strikeout rate is about 20%, and his walk rate is right around 7.5. So he's putting guys on. He's giving up homers, and he doesn't strike out and doesn't miss bats. Since he's been with the Cardinals, he's thrown 37 innings. His ERA is 4.3. His whip is 1.2, and he's walking almost 4 hitters a game. So it's not great. Like I know that he was great with the White Sox, but let's not trick ourselves and forget that he was banished to the KBO.
Well, I was going to bring this up, Prof, because the one thing that struck me, and I agree with you, and I was kind of like, I always battle with the underlying metrics of the pitcher's performance, and then the fact that some guys actually are just good to pitching to contact, and they can get weaker outs in contact, and etc. That helps them perform a little better. And so my eye can't always tell. I do tend to lean on the stats. But the other thing regarding Fedde, though, was just a few months before, the whole rest of the league decided the most he should get is $7.5 million a year for 2 years. The entire league said, that's all you're worth. You think you jump forward a couple months and they're all like, oh no, he's worth way more than this? Like, it was
like half of what a starting pitcher goes for. Like $50 million, pretty typical for a kind of a bum who just
the back end guys that are veterans get that. Exactly. Yeah.
Well, so then you throw in a player again, same line. They could have had him the entire offseason, Tommy Pham was nothing. Nothing. I don't know why people he was good for a little bit. He's a good playoff piece, a veteran. He can still hit. He's still got a bat, but everyone could have had him up until the Sox signed him in late April.
He was out there for free. Yeah.
So why trade for him? And then the team that traded for him DFA'd him. They released him not too long after that. So Pham was, to me, the trade was Kopech and Fedde, and that was the package. Pham was a nothing. And they got two 19-year-old prospects who immediately are in 13 and number 14 on the White Sox farm system. They come out of the Dodgers farm system. What other farm system would you want other than Baltimore, maybe? And then Vargas. I'm not saying Vargas is going to be good. I know that some people think that I'm saying that. What I'm saying is he has exhausted essentially his minor league eligibility for the most part, for lack of a better term. He's ready to show whether or not he can be a major league player at the major league level. And he hasn't really gotten a full opportunity. He's only played, before he came to the White Sox, he played one game at his natural position. So he wasn't getting a fair shake with the Dodgers because they're freaking good.
Yeah, I was going to say, no room. And sometimes that is a decent approach. Who's blocked in certain places and go try to gamble there. Yeah, the thing that struck me with Vargas, and I didn't know a lot about Vargas. I can obviously read his stats. I know to take with a grain of salt the PCL stats. But two guys whose writing I generally respect, Keith Law and Joe Sheehan, were both very high on him when the trade occurred. I'm a huge Joe Sheehan fan, and actually he's going to be on the show September 30th, which will be kind of the end of the month. And then Keith Law I've always liked because he feels fine being contrarian. If he sometimes he goes with the group, but sometimes he's like, no, this is not what I believe. I see this, and I'm different there. And Law was a big fan and thought the White Sox won this trade very easily, which was counter to everyone else. Everyone's like, the White Sox got absolutely crushed on this. And so what I wonder too, Prof, is when you look at the trade, it looks like Getz was addressing a very dear White Sox need. Is that he grabbed three guys that understand the strike zone at a minimum. Right?
And what I read from Keith Law too on his, because I do like Keith. I know he has the whole bit of everyone hates my team, or he hates everyone's team.
Yeah, exactly.
But he was saying how just Vargas and what's the guy's name? Oh my God, it's escaping me at the moment. The older guy, I can't think of his name, but he said just those two were enough for the package that they gave up. I know Albertus, the guy.
Yeah, Albertus. Yeah, that's right.
He looks like he's kind of like a Luis Ariz type, where he walks a lot, he doesn't strike out a lot, but has absolutely no power, and he's 19 years old, so he could grow into it. Right. A lot of those guys change with more professional development, but yeah, I just don't think that. Look, I understand Kopech is killing it too.
Yeah.
He's 28. He's been in the majors for 6 years. I know 1 year was taken off, but there's so much out there that he basically just wasn't listening to the White Sox to go cutter and slider more often. What are you going to do? At some point, your resources have run out. He's not listening, so ship him off. And of course, he was going to be good with the Dodgers. We kind of all knew that.
Yeah, I was going to say, with the Kopech thing, because of the disconnects all throughout kind of his career, I felt like heading towards the trade deadline, he was definitely getting traded just because both parties were kind of like, we just need to not be together anymore. We'll be better apart from each other. And all that did come out, Prof, you're right. And his last little stint before he left looks like the stint he's having now because he started listening to that, where he wasn't throwing 90% fastballs. He was lowering the usage, using the slider, and throwing the hitters off a little more. Because I saw the first little montage of him, I think it was against the Padres. They were swinging at all the bullshit fastballs he normally throws. And I'm like, oh, he must just be mixing it up enough to confuse these guys. And so yeah, that sort of made sense to me too. Yeah, I agree with you on Pham. Pham was out there free. Kopech, yeah, they're getting a nice return right now, but relievers are volatile, and it is what it is. And relievers do well in these markets. I mean, my guy Tanner Blanks, he even nabbed the White Sox a little something in this deal. So if anybody's disappointed, I would think maybe it could be Kopech. But I think you bring up great points on Eric Fedde, and that Eric Fedde's performance for the first couple months of the season were not what you were getting in trade. It just wasn't that. No team was going to pay for that past performance. They saw it differently.
Well, even so, his BABIP is at 264 right now. So that was due a major correction. You know, everyone wants to oh, look what the Blue Jays got for Kikuchi. Yeah, you want to talk about since he's made that trade? 41 innings, a 3 ERA, a WHIP under 1. Hitters are hitting 195, on base 242, and slugging 331. He struck out 53 hitters to 10 walks. Like, and his FIP is 3.23 and his xFIP is 2.6. He's had 2 games where he's had 10 plus strikeouts. They don't want guys who are fly ball pitchers, walk people, and give up a lot of contact. Kikuchi misses bats. That's why they traded more for him. I don't know why that's so difficult to understand. There's 97 from the left side.
That's a great point, Prof. Kikuchi is the type of guy who will win you a playoff game. Fedde's more the type of guy who fills out the rotation, make sure you don't have some bogus guys in there to maybe get you to the playoffs. But you're not excited if Eric Fedde's starting game 2 of a playoff series. No. So you're terrified of that situation because because you're right. That's how you can score in the playoffs with the home runs. Going down the list quickly, what about the rest of the deals from the deadline? The White Sox managed to ship off Eloy Jimenez, which shocked the shit out of me. Were you surprised by that too?
Yeah, and to be honest with you, so going back to Tanner Blanks, they could have basically replaced him with that trade with Eloy because they're getting a 26-year-old Trey McGowan, or they got one. Yeah. He is a converted reliever from starter. So basically 2023, the Orioles said, we're not going to start you anymore. We're going to make you a lefty reliever and send him back to rookie ball. He climbed all the way up to Double-A and then pretty much got promoted immediately this year by the Orioles before he got traded. In 73 innings, he has 76 strikeouts and a 2.08 ERA so far. So goodness. And he's 26. So he's your Tanner Blanks replacement there potentially next year as a lefty.
Knows how to, hopefully he can button his shirt appropriately. I'm actually surprised he's not in the bullpen here today.
Yeah,
because I know they're going to have some decisions to make after the season. I know. But I'm pretty sure he's Rule 5 eligible, so they're going to have to protect him after the year anyway. I'm kind of shocked they haven't bought him up, but maybe they got other plans right now. Or maybe they figure, well, we'll just give him a little bit of time there and, let him get adjusted to AAA and then think about him in the future. But, it looks good. I was like, wow, they got Eloy. And I understand the potential of Eloy. But, watching Eloy the last, even just this year, it's it's a lot of ground balls. It's we don't know if we can keep him upright. And it's I thought he did a good job getting anything, especially what looks like a live arm in the bullpen.
Yeah, I do too. And I mean, for that Tanner Banks trade, they got Bergla, who's another 19-year-old. They're acquiring a bunch of single A guys and hoping that they develop into bigger prospects. And that, I think his dad played, so he's got the major league pedigree in there. Yeah. Another guy with high average, no power, but again, 19 years old. There's potential development there physically. In the body to hit more. So, and he was number 11 in another quality organization. So
we'll take it.
I just don't understand what White Sox expected. You went out and traded for Baltimore prospects and Dodgers prospects.
That sounds good, right? Makes sense to me. Let's get to this drink real quick. Senor Sox says kimchi. I don't know.
It's because I make kimchi and Senor loves it. I don't know why.
He also says Vargas won the Vargas trade. It doesn't seem like it. Then he says Sox. I mean, God damn it. Moving on from the trades, which I agree with you, Prof. White Sox fans have been begging for more depth. They went out and made a bunch of trades for depth and fuck these trades. There's no headliners on here. But no team got a top 100 prospect at the deadline, and it was pretty well thrown. The deadline works differently now. No one makes real big trades. They take a lot of flyers on stuff. They try to unearth some talent that maybe has been underperforming, and they play the variance game, and it is what it is. You gather up what you can gather up, I think.
Yeah, and 2 of those guys are second basemen, middle infielders, which obviously second baseman has been a black hole since Tadahito Iguchi and Ray Durham. So exactly. At some point they have to fill that. And I don't mind getting middle infielders as prospects because hopefully they're more athletic, shortstop, center fielders, that kind of thing.
Right. Yeah, I'm gonna say even if the guys end up in a corner outfield, you would think they're still athletic enough, assuming they hit. And I think the carrying issue here, and one of the things we were highlighting when these trades too, is especially with Fedde, they're trying to get bats. They're so light on bats right now, and so it's Just grab any bats that you can to kind of get them in the system. I personally have no problem with it. Speaking of bats, I want to ask you about Andrew Vaughn because we've had a little, I've been low man on Andrew Vaughn since Andrew Vaughn's non-6-foot ass walked through the door. And then we've been back and forth a little bit because Andrew Vaughn's had a little resurgence in the second half this year. So I need to ask you this. Has Andrew Vaughn quietly turned the corner in his development or not?
So I texted you on August 19th, 2024, that he was quietly turning it around.
Yep.
And since then, he's at 239, on base 284, and slugging 388 for an OPS of 672 and a weighted runs created plus of 86. So, like in the 2 weeks that I texted you, he completely fell off the bat. So I don't know. The problem with Vaughn that I've always had is he's more of like a gap-to-gap guy, right? Doubles guy. You can't have that as your first baseman, or you got James Loney. I know I'm throwing.
Yeah, no, that's a great pull.
But like his launch angle has always been like 7, 9, 10, and you need to get that up in order to hit home runs. And you need to hit home runs if you're a first baseman.
Right.
Being 6 foot tall, I don't think helps him.
He doesn't have the levers. That was always been my argument, Prof, is that you either need the long levers to have the swing to give you kind of the leverage there, or the shorter guys have these powerful thighs and asses that allow them to run real fast, and he doesn't do that either. So, like, he has neither of the combinations that should give him power if he was, first base.
Well, so I got kind of silver lining, and then I got bad. So I'll start with the good. His Savant page looks pretty red, right? There's a lot of red, and his expected weighted on base percentage, his expected slugging is 467 compared to 400. So he's having a bit of luck. Just to give you some perspective, he has 17 homers, but his expected homers is 19.8. So some of that is park factor. If he played 100% of his games in Miller Park, he'd have 30 homers. If he played his 100% of his games in Great American Ballpark, he'd have 31 expected homers. So he's hitting the ball hard. I know that people don't like fake baseball, but his launch angle has gone from 9 to 16 this year. So he is elevating the ball. That could explain some of his struggles. He mashes fastballs. He absolutely mashes fastballs. He's got a 464 slugging and an expected of 558 slugging on fastballs. Now here's the bad. He can't hit shit other than a fastball.
It's like Pedro Serrano.
Yeah, he's hitting 136 and slugging 182 versus sweepers this year. He's batting 133 and slugging 244 versus curveballs, and batting 152 and slugging 326 versus changeups. So he cannot hit off-speed pitches. So that's a long way to say he's basically a replacement player. He's got a weighted runs created plus of 95, and his defense is atrocious. So he's not gaining any value there. So I just think he is elevating the ball more, but he's 26, and he's just not that. Is 26, 25?
Yeah.
He's just not able to adjust to the off speed. And I know that people don't like to talk about his lack of development in the minor leagues, but he wasn't afforded that, and he's been made to figure it out at the major league level, and he hasn't. So the long-winded way of saying no, I don't think he's turned it around. He's perfectly fine letting him go.
Okay, you thought for a second maybe he'd turned into good Andrew Vaughn. He's still normal Andrew Vaughn, is what you thought. Okay, that's fair enough. He is 26 years old. I just looked it up. Beer Garden Jim says "Durr," and that brings me to a point actually, because for a while when Vaughn was heating up a little bit, it kind of had been in the post Pedro era. He had gotten a little hot streak in there when they had moved him to DH almost permanently. They were letting Gavin Sheets play first. They let Vaughn DH almost all the time. And My Sock Summer asked me if I thought Andrew Vaughn was too dumb to handle doing more than one thing at once, and if he could just focus on hitting, if would he do better? And so what do you think, Prof? If he became just like the full-time DH, let's say you said, all right, next year's another throwaway, we're going to be auditioning guys or whatever, we're not ready to quite give up on Vaughn, would you slide him over to DH permanently, first base, or are you dead set on like, let's get him out of here and try something new?
No, I mean, like I said, there's some positivity in his Savant page. All of those hard hit percentages and his whiff rate, they're all, which is weird because he strikes out a lot and he doesn't walk, but
right.
I don't see any reason not to give him another opportunity because they're going to be awful again. So if you are in the speculative market, with that expected slugging percentage, I don't mind giving him another shot. And who else are you going to put there?
Yeah, you'd be going in the free agent market, or you would be, all right, we need to overfit the roster with guys, and so you'd put like Brian Ramos there and kind of waste his defensive value at first, or someone like that, right? That's kind of would be the approach.
I think I'd probably keep him at first because he's been there and he's used to first. He did play first at Cal.
Right.
I guess as bad, they're going to lose 100 games again next year, and they're probably going to threaten.
More than likely.
I don't know if Jerry's going to allow them to threaten for the worst record of all time again. I don't know if he gets embarrassed in his old age anymore, but I don't see any reason or any replacement of him. And I think putting him at DH is probably wasting an opportunity for an actual proven better bat without a defensive position. You know what I mean?
Yeah, especially when you have a historically bad offense. It might be good to put a real hitter on the roster.
Yeah, they got to score some runs. So going to get somebody, just somebody who can hit home runs. They need more power, plain and simple. I don't care if they hit 200 and hit 25 home runs. That'd be fine.
It's all in the ballpark. Ian Eskridge in the comments says Tim Elko's going to hit 20 in the AFL. Andrew Vaughn giving his walking papers. I was kind of, I'll be honest with you, kind of surprised. There hasn't been a little more. There has been a little in the fan base, but I'm kind of surprised they haven't given Elko a shot or kind of pushed him up with the fact that he's already been promoted to AAA. He's an older guy, and it's like, what are you doing at first in DH? I mean, you're trotting Gavin Sheets out there again, and to Gavin Sheets' credit, he's putting up a little bit once he's gotten steady playing time here, but there is no power in that profile either. So it's kind of like, what are we doing here? But it's the White Sox, so I can't predict these.
There's a lot of holes.
There certainly are. So I wanted to get to this topic. Something that my brother Treasy's been pining for a long time. Chris Getz recently fired Marco Patti. He also gutted much of the pro scouting team. There was a tweet out there just talking about all these old scouts that had been pillaged and kicked out of here. Which do you see as like more structurally important issue for the White Sox to fix? Is it the international scouting or the pro scouting? And both sides, to me, I feel like have been pretty atrocious. Let's start with the day Rick Hahn took the GM seat through now. It have been bad kind of across the board. And so which one would you be prioritizing right now?
I mean, you didn't give me this as an answer choice, but their entire infrastructure needs to change in general. I mean, first of all, scouting across the league is being let go. It's not just related to the White Sox. There are tons of scouts that are getting let go. But I think, Marco Patti, he hit on Tatis, he hit on Luis Robert, but he kept going back to the Cuban well, and they were given decent amount of money and just not hitting any of those. Yeah. So my thing is, I'm cool with getting rid of all the scouts because the scouts that you have produced what you have currently. It's kind of ironic that the guy in charge of player development, now GM, is the one saying, "You guys did a terrible job." But
it wasn't me. It was you guys.
It was you guys. I'm a fear guy, not a thumb guy. Yeah. Exactly. But let them go. Bring in new people. I have a deep fear that Getz is going to go to Kansas City and pull a bunch of scouts from there. And be like, "Come on, Royals!" But it needed to be done. I'm kind of surprised that he was given that sort of autonomy in a way by Jerry to be able to make that systemic change, because it doesn't seem like Jerry's been super open. He's got the smallest, or he did have the smallest basketball analytics department and allegedly the smallest baseball analytics department. Yeah. So fixing that and not ignoring analytics would be my first. Obviously, I've been analytics heavy, so I almost wore my analytics T-shirt.
But Kelly Kapowski just perfect.
Yeah.
But
they just need to do more heavy scouting. You can't. Rick Hahn always seemed like he was doing like 1/3 of the project at a time, right? Like I'm doing all the trades now to get all these guys. Yeah. Meanwhile, I'm ignoring drafting, I'm ignoring free agency, and I'm ignoring the trade market for the most part. And then it's like, all right, we're bad. So now we need to make trades, but we're still not focused on drafting. Like there's never been this cohesive plan where, just like you said before, you need to collect a lot of prospects. Some of them are going to pan out. Some of them might be trade fodder. Some of them are not going to pan out. And you need to be able to supplement that with quality free agent signings and some quality trades as well. And I think I would focus on the pro scouting more than the international scouting, because I think that the international scouting is a lot tougher because of the translation between leagues that people are playing in versus actual professionals already. Right. So for me, I would choose the pro scouting, but ultimately it all is under the umbrella of you got to start increasing your scouting department, man.
Yeah, the bump up in infrastructure for sure. The international scouting to me, and I don't know a lot. I mean, I've read Future Value and I've read some stuff on it, but like to me, it feels like it's a very relationship based business where it is if you are in good with the Buscones and you can get the first line on certain players, then you have a better shot at signing them. You can build the relationships, develop the relationships. I think one of the things that has been kind of out there a little bit now is that the White Sox want to kind of rebuild their facility down there or erect a brand new one. And so I think to me that's an outreach to say, look, we're going to put a bunch of money into this. We're going to employ some people here, and we're going to make friends with the right people that we need to make friends with to kind of get this in the door. With regards to the pro scouting side, our mutual friend Alex Rude put out there, a lot of teams are nuking a lot of their pro scouting because they're just doing it via video scouting. They're not even sending a lot of people out there. Do you think the White Sox are going to take, or do you hope the White Sox take more of that approach, or you think there's room for more old school scouts? It's just we didn't have the right ones.
No, I think your eyes can lie, and I know that's hard for old school traditionalists. I think of Moneyball, and you hear all those, he's got to, or like Hawk, he's got a good face. He's
got a good face. The Gordon Beckham shit, man. He loved Gordon Beckham. I love Gordon Beckham. I wanted Gordon to be great, Prof, but it didn't happen. It was like, oh shit,
He's turned into a quality broadcaster in my opinion.
I do like him actually. I'm a big fan of him in that capacity.
But I think the video doesn't necessarily lie. You can scout the video. You can get the video from anywhere and have it sent. So like, people being sent there, I understand that costs more money and having to send them and pay for all of their per diems and everything. So I understand the switch to video. And if you don't have to send all of those people everywhere and you could just upload a video somewhere, I don't have a problem with analyzing that, because I think your eyes can lie to you, but on the video, it's way easier to see, way more difficult for you to be lied to ultimately.
And you can run it back. It's not just you see it once, you got a shot to run it back. In the comments, Ian Oscar says, tap the like button like Marco Patti taps the senior Cuban circuit. That's right. Hit the like, make sure you smash that like button. We need it. Brian Bannister. So far, he's been considered a revelation. Sox fans love him. Probably the best acquisition Chris Getz made in the offseason. So I got to ask you, Prof, why is the bullpen horrendous? Is that just bad luck, or do they have a bad approach, or kind of what the fuck happened to the White Sox bullpen? Why was it so goddamn bad?
Well, for one, they didn't invest heavily in it. I think that they were trying to find some scrap heapers, and if they found some lightning in a bottle to be able to flip it. If you know you're going to be bad, why would you invest in the most volatile Rick Hahn?
Yeah, exactly. That's where all the money went.
$60 million to relievers and nothing else. But why would you invest in the most volatile, position if you know you're going to lose 100 games? And they cycled some of those guys out. They ended up on other teams, and then they come and get some more and replace with guys like that Trey McGow, who's in AAA, and relievers are so volatile. You can't, even the best ones. David Bednar was one of the best relief pitchers last year with Pittsburgh. He's been demoted or been relegated to low leverage. He is terrible this year. So to me, it just doesn't make sense to invest in a good bullpen. They knew they were going to be bad. They tried to pick up some arms that might be enticing, and they swapped a bunch of them. To be honest with you, I mean, So they got some value. They got some prospects for some random bullpen arms like a John Brebbia or somebody like that. And even Kopech, they got some return for him as well. So I'm not that upset about that, just because we knew they were going to be bad, and it really doesn't make sense to go out there and get a Liam Hendricks type or somebody like that.
No, not in this situation. What's interesting too is now that they've churned a lot, so they realize the error of their ways. Like they dumped Tim Hill. Tim Hill's pitching better now for the Yankees, or whatever. And they've been churning a lot of these guys, and like now as we get towards the end of the season, Justin Anderson looks okay. Prelander Barroa has looked pretty good in a limited stint. So I kind of just wonder how much of like when you play at the bottom, sometimes these guys just suck, and there's nothing you can do about it. Like you said, with the volatility, it's risky. And if you don't pay guys that are solid, some years you're going to get a bullpen that looks like this. Some years you're going to get one of those bullpens everyone raves about that you made for almost no money. So I'm hoping we get the flip side in 2025 with regards to the bullpen. Speaking of 2025, the current White Sox are cruising to potentially the worst record in baseball history. The offense, to me, is what has stuck out as being so bad. Going into the year, we kind of thought it'd be a bad offense, but you didn't think Luis Robert was going to have his worst year by far. You didn't think Eloy Jimenez, when he was healthy, was going to be so bad. The Andrews, although Andrew Benintendi's been on a heater lately, started out just criminally bad. Like the reason you were 3-22 is those two guys.
The worst players in baseball.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, they were never coming up and hitting in the clutch. If you're heading into 2025, what are you doing right away to try to like lift this up from just being historically bad offense to normal bad, like bottom third of the league offense, but not embarrassing like it's been?
Well, I mean, in all honesty, I think that Getz has done, like, the development of some of these young starting pitchers has been decent. Like there's some positive light in that between Cannon. Cannon may have mixed results at times, but dude's going 6 innings a lot of times out, and between the other guys that are there too. So I think that's a start. Better pitching from 1 through 5 instead of some of the junk that they got this year. But what I would do is, I don't know if I've ever watched a White Sox team that was good at defense. I'll be 41 in October, so I've watched plenty of White Sox baseball. They've rarely ever been good at defense. So, like,
the 1990 White Sox are a good defensive team.
They've had some good defensive players, but I am not too new school that I don't think that pitching and defense still can't win you a bunch of games. Right. And they've been, really, really bad defensively, as we've seen by, Vargas trying to knock himself out, examples like that. But
yes.
It's a systemic thing. I just don't think that their player development is very good at either finding guys who have the head for defense or willingness, one or the other, or ability. So defense, pitching, I think that they need to add more power, and, there can be cheap power guys that are out there that they can create one player by platooning them and that kind of thing. I think of guys like Luke Raley, somebody like that
right.
matches. He's got a little bit of speed, can play first base too if you want to kick Andy out. So find some cheap power, find some defense. A Jose Iglesias type who's added some offense this year for the Mets, but he'll probably be able to pick it until he's like 60. So find guys like that can play defense. I think Dominic
Fletcher.
I mean, he can't hit, but that dude can pick it. And he's made plenty of runs this year in this short amount of time with the White Sox.
Absolutely.
So that would be my course of action.
Yeah, I love it. And from the offensive perspective, like, I agree with you 100%. Just go get some power. They're so lacking in power that they never have the ability to come back. It seems like they're never in a spot where they could strike quickly with a 3-run homer and get themselves a big lead or come back from behind. So like, and the power positions are a little, like they're clogged up right now. We mentioned Fletcher, who's a good defender, but if you're going to plan for him in right field, you're not going to get no power there.
Yeah.
Andrew Benintendi's hitting his power stroke, but I don't know if Andrew Benintendi can ever have a year where he has 25 homers. I don't know but he's in one of your power spots. And then we have Andrew and Gavin, first base DH, and again, they're not hitting for nearly enough power. You kind of need to either displace some people or something, because it's hard to sign Paul DeYoung and get 19 homers at shortstop. They managed to do that this year, but they still didn't have enough power across the board. So they're going to have to take an eye and just say, like, look, if we're going to have even a bad offense, we need to figure out a way to inject a lot more home runs in here.
Yeah, they have a bunch of like half players, like exactly. Not enough bench spots to keep them, not enough DH spots to keep them. Like yep. I like Nicky Lopez as a 25th guy, 26th guy, glove guy, middle infielder, but like Vaughn is in that category of not really hitting enough to warrant his position. He can't field. Like Gavin Sheets, who can only hit right-handed pitching and doesn't have a position. There's just so many guys out there. Benintendi's awful. If I see another guy take second base on him, like, that and it just keeps happening. And you can tell Stone is just so fired up about it too. So I'm glad that guy is a little grumpy.
Oh man, I remember when they signed Benintendi, we sit and want to wait, so we got the better view of the outfielders than we do of the infielders, the routes they take, whatever. So we could see like up close how fucking good Luis Robert is at like getting a jump or just being in position and like, oh, it looks easy. Well, yeah, because he was already he got a great jump on this. Conversely, we could see the opposite of Andrew Benintendi, where it never seems like he gets a fucking good jump. And we watched him in Cincinnati, and Treasy and I, we were sitting right down on the left field line. We're like, all right, now we're really going to watch him. And we may have had a few cocktails, but we're like, this is so bad. We thought from far away it was bad, and then we're up close. I was like, this is fucking horrible. I can't stand it. So I agree with you, Prof. And I put some out there recently about they got to improve in some of these spots on defense, some of the critical spots, and people were yelling at me, oh, this was Get's strategy last year. I'm like, yeah, but if you put real good defenders in a couple spots, it's super helpful. You don't realize. And now I think people are seeing it with Fletcher, because when you got a top defender, they make a big fucking difference with their play out there. And so, like, I agree with you. It wouldn't hurt to have a shortstop that you could really depend on, or someone in a spot like that just to improve this defense. Bring the floor up a little.
Catch the freaking ball. That's all. Don't throw it away. Like, make the simple plays. Like, again, I know I'm new school on a lot of this stuff, and people disagree with me. But if you can pitch and play good defense, you're going to be in a lot of games. And that'll be your quickest way to not losing 120 games.
That's where we're at. Sox fans just want a watchable product. We just don't embarrass yourselves.
Yes. I bet the 61.5 under wins, and it was really nice to collect that before the calendar changed to September. God. I'm looking at it. I'm like, where'd all this money come from? Oh, yeah, the White Sox already hit the under.
Sox.
On August 28th or whatever it was.
Thanks, Sox, in the Benetti voice. Maloney says, gotta be honest, Kapowski t-shirt is fire. # merch. Hope to see you both on Saturday. Cheers. Peter, thank you, my friend. Cheers.
Cheers.
Treasy and I have a lot of extra tickets for Saturday. We're going to be giving some away. I think Treasy already got some out there. So if you're interested, people are interested in going to the funeral game. The funeral game for the White Sox is on Saturday. We're doing a tailgate with Chicago Sports Funds. Let's get on to a mutual friend of ours, because I want to talk a little bit more with just you, Prof, and less White Sox stuff. A mutual friend of ours, Alex Rue, we may have been intoxicated when he was telling me this. He said, you're the most accomplished baseball coach on Sox Twitter, but you keep quiet. Other people make lewd comments about who they coached, and man, they can't stop talking about it, but you are super quiet about it. Spit it out, motherfucker. I want to hear about your coaching. All right, let's go. The floor is yours, my friend.
I think Alex overinflates my prowess. If you looked at my high school coaching record, you wouldn't think I'm any good of a coach. But I played in college. I played at Millikan University. I had Tommy John surgery when I was in high school, my junior year.
Shit.
So that junior year in Chicago, when your season doesn't start until March, I missed my whole junior year and half of my senior year. So, but I ended up going to Millikan and pitching there for 4 years, and I had a shitload of injuries. My labrum went, so all that to say, I watched a lot of baseball, which I think benefited me as a coach, because I know a lot of guys who have been great players, even major leaguers and that kind of thing, and they're shit coaches because it's really, when the guy who's really good at stuff is just like, just do this. Why can't you do this? Oh, because I'm not you, like that kind of thing. But I coached high school baseball down in Florida. Coached a couple pros, draftees there, and moved up to Tennessee and coached high school there. And then I got on with a really high level travel team, Knights baseball, and you can find their highlights on YouTube and everything. It is a top notch organization. I think our highest draft pick was Kyle Wright. So this is all out of Nashville. So we had a lot of, he was the 5th overall pick out of Vanderbilt, and we had a lot of Vanderbilt guys in our top tier teams, and our top tier teams were D1. Our second teams were, D1, D2. So I coached a lot of baseball with that, and that was really fun.
Now, what age were that high level travel team, Prof? And then what's the commitment as far as time for the kids and for the coaches for those real high level travel teams?
So one of the reasons, one of my buddies that I coach high school baseball with, so when I was a head coach in Tennessee, I got paid $4,000 a year.
Okay.
And I had to cut the field, take care of the field, all the fertilizer, whatever happened with the field.
You were doing full operations of the program for $4,000.
Yeah, and then I gained a family, and I'm at the field at like 12 o'clock at night, waiting for the kids to get their rides, and I'm like, what am I doing?
Yeah.
So one of my buddies who I coached with the Knights, and he brought me on there, and that commitment for me was May 15th to July 31st, and I got paid $4,000 for that 2.5 months of work. Yeah. And the kids, basically it was Thursday to Sunday, and we would have one practice. So we traveled to Indianapolis, we traveled to Georgia, we've traveled to, Memphis, usually 4 or 5 weekends out of the summer. And
play tournaments or whatever.
Yeah. And the age group, it was really cool what I worked with, because I got to progress with them, but I started with a 16U team. The next year we were 17U, and then the next year we combined, because 18U is kind of hard because some of the top tier guys are going off to college right away.
Right. Yeah.
So we had 3 teams for each age level. And so the teams kind of combined to make 2 18-year-old teams. But, helping kids get to college, I missed that. My daughter plays now. She's 14, softball. So I'm just a dad at this point. But when she's done playing softball, whenever that is, I hope to get back on a coaching staff, maybe a pitching staff. That would be my ideal scenario, is to run a pitching staff. I don't care if it's a freshman, sophomore, or varsity, but I love pitching. I was a pitcher, so.
Now, Prof, let me ask you this. Your daughter's playing, and you play at a high level and coach at a high level. Now your daughter's coming up, she's playing, and she's in high school and stuff. As just a dad, how hands-off or hands-on are you with this as far as instruction or whatever? I'm just curious because, I played basketball. I only played through high school, and my daughter plays basketball, and I try to be very hands-off. You listen to your coach, and then if she has questions about something a little more, detailed or whatever, I'm happy to jump in and like, oh, well, this is how this works or whatever. I'm curious. How, are you full bore in there? Where do you land? Because it's got to be tough. You've coached at these levels,
Yeah, this is my second year as just a dad. So I think that her and I work on the side a lot. And that's where I'm like, I'm not missing the coaching, because I still get to work with my favorite player, and
exactly.
and I get to work with her. It definitely, teenagers are tough. I'm a teacher too, so teenagers are tough because they definitely think that it's like Dunning-Kruger. They're like poster child for Dunning-Kruger. They think they know everything without any experience whatsoever.
Yes.
So my wife and I are constantly talking about just letting her fail. Like, it's hard to do, but sometimes you got to do it.
I totally agree with that philosophy. As long as it's a reasonably safe environment,
Right.
So let's as much failure as possible. That's what you'll learn. You only learn by putting your hands on the stove, kind of deal.
Exactly. So I think during games, like I'll give her some advice here and there, but I don't think. Maybe my wife and kid would disagree, but I don't think I talk to her too much during the games. I am a very much a practices for practice coach, and games is just go out there and play. Like, you hear all these youth coaches are like, keep your arms up, keep your back leg there. It's like, dude, all that kid is doing is terrified that they're going to strike out. They're not hearing what you're saying. So just say, hey, go get them. Like,
exactly. They should have learned that shit already in practice. Now it's time to just go.
Don't try and coach it during a game. Coach during practice. That's the biggest thing for me. So I try not to say too much to her, but I know there's times where I go, to the back of the dugout and give her a heads up of, hey, this pitcher's throwing fast, so get that front foot down early. But I try not to talk to her too much during the games.
I love it. Prof, I know you're a big scorehead. I'd love to hear what you think about 670 having the vacant spot. Danny Parkins obviously has moved on to bigger and better. What would you do with the lineup? Do you got a ready-made fix to throw in there with Matt Spiegel in the afternoons? Would you make some changes? How would you look at this thing? I had John Greenberg on. He's a big Jason Goff fan. He thought you put Jason Goff in there. I suggested to him Eddie Barstool, and lo and behold, Eddie Barstool did do a little. I don't think he's going to be leaving, Barstool Sports, but he did do a little afternoon with Matt Spiegel. Yeah. What would you like to see, or what do you think could work?
So I have ever since he was Jason from Evanston calling in, I've been a Jason Goff guy. I listened to him when he was in Atlanta. I listened to the Full Go podcast. I've always found him to be extremely real. I feel like I've learned a lot from him, not just sports, but culturally. And, I just think he's a very intelligent dude who has a lot of thoughts that he gets a lot of reactions too. What you want? Yeah. You want that as somebody. So I think bringing him home, the day he got let go, I stopped listening to the score for a couple months. Like okay. I'm a Bernstein disciple. Always have been. My dad listened to the score, so going all the way back to Boers and Bernstein. I mean,
great show. Love Boers and Bernstein.
Tune in radio app at the time, I think it was. Like I listen to that when I'm in the car, much to my wife and kids' chagrin. I'm listening to 670. So they hate it. It's awful for them. Right. But I think Goff is the logical choice. He never should have been let go in the first place. But I'm kind of digging like the open tryout nature of what's going on with that afternoon show. But I think Jason and Speaks worked well together when they were together before.
Right. Yeah, they have partnered before. That's correct. Yeah.
I wouldn't mind moving. I think Lawrence and Dan. I like both of them individually, but
not as much together. Huh?
Not as much together. They seem to just have different styles. I think Dan has gotten a little goofier with Lawrence, and Lawrence has gotten a little bit more serious with Dan. And so I might change that up. I think both of them are really great at their job. I think Lawrence is the best interviewer on that platform. So that would be my move. Would be Jason. I'll always support that guy.
It's interesting how long it's taking. You would have thought a decision to be made. I understand it takes a while to negotiate or whatever, but I'm eagerly awaiting what they end up doing. I haven't been listening to as much score lately, and that's just more because of work or whatever. But I would get a chance to listen to the afternoon show sometimes, and really love Danny Parkins' work. I mean, I just thought he's very well built for doing guy talk radio, basically, and having having a real opinion on something and really generating some discussion. Let's get to this drink right here from HBIC. It says, cheers to Beef and Prof. Can't wait to party up with both of you on Saturday at the best damn tailgate in Lampy. Prof, just a heads up, no Chef Ruddy cooking, so you'll be safe. We have Lawrence's coming, so just in case you were worried about that. So
cheers to that.
Thank you, HBIC.
I think Saturday might be free too.
No, see, you got to come through. This is I told you it's the funeral game. So last but not least, Prof, before you go, you've been an ardent 108 supporter since back in the day. One of our more outspoken ones, I will say, if people are trying to steal our bits or thunder or whatever, and we're really appreciative of that, just to let you know. So first off, thanks. But second, any piece of advice for the 108ers other than Mike Sock Summers' incessant defenses of John Schriffen? Anything you think we should change, do something different? Shoot it at me, baby. I'd love to hear it.
Any advice for you guys?
Yeah, for us, yeah.
Shit. I mean, I know. So we ended up getting our wives to come to the 108 day. Any advice for you guys? I really don't have any advice because, I have met some really, really good friends. I know that you guys were a part of getting a lot of people through the pandemic.
Allegedly, yes.
That, and we had Zoom calls during the, when there were no fans and having like happy hours to discuss the game. I don't maybe get like a blood transfusion or something like that.
So we can live longer.
Well,
get the booze out of our system.
There's some leaching going on. So I'm surprised you guys have any blood left, but no, I don't really have any advice that much. You guys are great. You have built a lot of friendships amongst people, like Rude and unfortunately John. It's other guys like that. So I think that you guys do a great job, and it's much appreciated to be able to come on a show like this and just shoot the shit a little bit and talk baseball.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that, Prof. And thanks for sharing your thoughts on Get's much maligned trade deadline moves, Andrew Vaughn, the Marco Patty firing and 6-7 score lineup. Remember, we ain't trying to be right on the show. We're just trying to understand. Is there anything you want to plug before you go?
Well, education. Read a book.
Is Audible book okay? Because sometimes, sometimes I want to go out for a walk and I want to listen. I've been listening currently to Mario Puzo's Godfather. I've seen the movie 50 times, but I never really listened to the book. A lot more going on in the background I didn't know about in that story. So I love that advice. Prof, thanks again, my friend. Appreciate it.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
You got it. That was Recovering Prof. That was awesome. some good angles there on the White Sox. Stuff that isn't necessarily getting talked about. Counterculture in a way. Next week on the Au Jus, I'm going to have Ian Eskridge join me. We're going to talk about the future Sox top 30 list. I have so many questions about it. I'm going to try to limit the amount of questions. But they threw me for a loop with this list because I was expecting certain things, and I was expecting some other things, and almost none of it delivered. They have some players who are very high with very little performance in the minors. They have others I think they left off, and I'm interested to get Ian in here. I'm going to ask him some questions. So if you have questions about the future Sox list, we'll post it up somewhere, their top 30 list. Make sure you jump on in here. Get in the comments, super chat, so you can ask the question. Thanks to Punky's Pizza and Pasta. All the 108 family is up on the YouTube for your comments. Appreciate you smashing the like button. And, of course, drinks and tips. We'll see you guys next week when I have Ian Eskridge on here. But first, come back for the 108 podcast on Thursday. Bye, and I love all of you.